Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the betting show for UFC Fight Night between Nikita Krylov and Ryan Spann. And like we always do here, we're going to talk about two fights. We're going to break them down. We're going to dive into them. Excited about this card. Listen, I know we got a big card coming up next week. I am massively excited about that card. Have a 5% play, a max play up for that card right now. Dominating max plays, 5-0 run, feeling good about it. So if you want to take a look, link down in the description right now. But we do have a card this weekend that we do need to talk about, and I already do have some plays for clients up right now. So excited about it. We're going to dive right into it here. So let's get into it here. Let's get into the main event of the evening between Nikita Krylov and Ryan Spann. Now you've got Krylov, he is minus 170. On the comeback here, you've got Spann, he is plus 145. And like we always do here, we're gonna talk about 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. So the first person we talk about here is Nikita Krylov, and 3 fights ago, he fought Paul Craig. Now listen, we all know what Paul Craig does here, right? We know what he does here. He'll pull guard. He wants people in his guard. He does not care what he needs to do to get down to the ground, get down to the mat, work his incredibly high skill set off his back, all those things that he does. Very, very high skill when it comes to submissions. And Krylov right out the gate kind of went in, got the takedown, looked for, looking to kind of get top control, gain top control right away. Now, this is something, again, that most people stay away from. Now, I give Krylov credit. One, I believe that he really believes in his own skill set. But I also believe that this is, it showed a little bit of something now, that his willingness to go in there, his confidence in his ground game. Now, it didn't work out for him here, but it did show certain things. And when he was going in there, first round was really him just top control, landing big shots. Even at one point, it looked like he almost knocked out Paul Craig from top position, where he's dropping big shots, working, from side control. Looked really good overall, and I think he just got a lapse of judgment or whatever it was. There was even positions where he could have gotten up. He was able to kind of get away from, or I should say, Paul Craig was kind of able to kind of create some kind of space. Krylov gets to his feet and kind of jumps right back down, wants that type control. The more and more they were pushing, the more and more all it took was one slip up. Paul Craig ends up latching in a triangle choke, getting that finish in the first round. Not a good showing there for Krylov, but that up until that point, he looked pretty good at the ground, gotta say that, but he did get choked out in that first round. 2 fights ago, he fought Alexander Gustafsson. This one not here to really break down because there wasn't much to break down. Gustafsson coming off a long layoff, trying to get himself back into a position here to kind of start to get some wins, I guess, or whatever it was he was trying to do. Comes in there, gets absolutely steamrolled. Krylov, who does come out very aggressive, will push the pace, will get in your face, will do what he needs to do to go out there and smother you, and that's what he was doing. But he was throwing big shots, landing big shots, hurt Gustafsson, dropped him right away out the gate, ends up keeping the pressure on, keeps going, landing, gets the knockout victory in that first round. It's, I guess, impressive, a nice name to have in your resume, but Gustafsson, again, the guy is at the end of his career. And then most recently, he fought Volkan Ozdemir. Now, this is the fight that I really felt showed the next level for Krylov overall. Definitely showed the overall. And we look at it right away, both guys pushing forward, both guys really highly aggressive. And again, that's something we're talking about a little bit more once we kind of go over the fights, but that's something that he does incredibly. And even Spann is another guy who's a willing dance partner as well when it comes to that. But big exchanges from both guys firing big shots. And what started to happen, I thought was very impressive. One, the fact that Krylov was showing durability. I mean, the guy was cracked, clean hit. Volkan Ozdemir has heavy hands, knockout power. The guy can crack. But Krylov was able to kind of weather that storm, kind of get in, look for these takedowns, and that is exactly, I think, what he needs to do on Saturday night. He needs to kind of weather that early storm on Spann, and then from there, look for these takedowns. It's exactly what he did here. He was able to kind of keep pushing forward, keep getting the takedowns. And listen, Ozdemir's not an easy guy to take down. So I thought it was very impressive that he was able to kind of weather that storm, keep getting those takedowns. And then he had it in the second round, same kind of thing. Right out the gate, pushing the pace, getting him up against the fence, more takedowns. And I loved the way that he just had the strength, the cardio, and the ability to just keep getting into the clinch, getting the takedowns. Clinch, takedowns, that's going to be his path on Saturday night. I thought he did it extremely well. He kept the top control, good ground and pound from top position. He goes out there and wins and defeats Volkan Ozdemir. On the other side here, you've got Ryan Spann. 3 fights ago, he fought Anthony Smith. Now, we just went from probably, one of the better fights for Nikita Krylov. This is probably the worst fight for Ryan Spann, where he fought Anthony Smith here. This was just a fight where both guys kind of out the gate, throwing big shots, landing big shots, and Spann ended up getting dropped, early in the fight. And it's not that Smith has power. That was the one thing I thought that was a little more eye-opening, was the fact that Smith is not a guy who's going to drop guys right away. And he was able to land multiple big shots early in this fight cleanly on Ryan Spann, dropping him a couple times, scrambling back to the feet, ended up getting certain positions where he was, scrambling on bottom. Smith looked like he was going to be able to do certain things, but again, hurt Spann, rocked him, ends up getting a submission choke, sliding it in that first round, ends up defeating Ryan Spann. 2 fights ago, he fought Ian Cutelaba. This is one here where actually Spann was a plus 190 dog going into this fight. But this was one here where, again, another interesting fact where Spann was taken down multiple times. I mean, listen, we know that early in the fight, Cutelaba, strong guy, will wrestle, will fall off a cliff with his cardio, but early he could really push that pace, keep get in your face, throw the big hammers, and try to work you from there. But over that very short fight, the first round, he got 3 takedowns, and I thought that was interesting that he was able to get that. But once it ended up, this is nothing we don't know about Cutelaba. He gets sloppy, he gets weak, he gets, drained cardio within 2.5 minutes. That's exactly what happens here. He ended up getting sloppy. Spann gets back to his feet, throws a big shot, missed completely, disgusting, and that was the way that really Spann was able to lock in a guillotine, get that finish in that first round. So there you have it there. And then most recently, he fought Dominic Reyes, which, listen, this was a Dominic Reyes who was a shell of himself. I mean, a shell of himself completely since all these other losses that he's had and everything else. I mean, coming off that brutal loss to Prochazka, I mean, he has just been absolutely obliterated. He comes into this fight, and I thought he looked horrible right out the gate. I mean, there was, I think, a jab that were Spann through, and he was like slipping and sliding. He was on skates already, and then he fell when he threw like an overhand. I mean, I thought Reyes looked like garbage in that fight, but credit to Spann. He did what he should do, I think, right now to Reyes and just where he is on his trajectory of his career. He goes out there, lands a big shot. We know he's got heavy hands, drops him in brutal fashion, knocks out Dominic Reyes in round 1. So with that being said, I think the first thing we got to talk about here is that both of these guys have a willingness to go forward. I mean, there is no doubt about it. They're going to go forward. Krylov is going to push the pace. He's going to get in your face. You're going to have Ryan Spann, who is not scared to go out there, throw the big shots, and he's got that power. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He has the power. He's the kind of guy who's going to rely on it. He does also have a lot of submission victories. He's a guy that, can be crafty when it comes to getting on the ground. But the one thing, and really the biggest issue that I see with anyone that is looking to back Ryan Spann in the spot, listen, guy has tools. He's big for the division, a strong guy, but I just think that power, it lacks longevity in a fight. And we haven't really seen too much of him going deeper into fights. I mean, 7 of his last 10 ended in the first round. He's won some, he's lost some, but we have seen he has just really looked like a guy who is just absolutely looking for a kill or be killed kind of attitude. He's not looking to kind of go anywhere else. And I actually put that in a more of a category where his fighting style and his cardio don't support that. And I think he knows that. I think he knows I can't go far in these fights. And, another guy, his cardio will fall off a cliff. And he looks early. I mean, he'll throw big shots all of a sudden. In the first round, he'll throw these big hammers. All of a sudden, he will really drop down his cardio, he really drop down his movement, really drop down his output, and it's early in a fight. So that to me is a telling sign of a guy who just doesn't have the energy, the gas tank to really push forward. To really push forward over a 15-minute fight, a 25-minute fight. I think he knows that. He has to look for that kill early, or he knows second, third, fourth round, he's not going to be able to really last through that. But on the other side of it, you've got that relentless pressure from Krylov. And a guy who does have this relentless pressure backed by cardio. Now, we've seen him too at points. He has looked a little bit sloppy later in fights, but he can push through those. And that's something that not many guys can do, where if they're tired, you can see they're, a little bit labored or their movement's a little bit labored, but he pushes through, and he did that. I thought that was very impressive what he did against Ozdemir. Again, Ozdemir's a guy who can really fight the takedowns, can really, go through, creating space, scrambling, getting off the cage or wherever it may be. He's pretty good at that, and I just really like that Krylov, even late in the fight, was dumping him down consistently. I thought that really showed a great array of ability for him to get the takedowns. Plus the fact that, I think we all know this also, that early, Spann's going to go for broke. So I think Krylov knows I have to smother. I got to get on him. I got to push him up against the fence. I can't allow him to just fire big shots or dictate the pace. Krylov needs to dictate that pace and get Spann working, get him tired, get him up against the fence, and that's where he could do some great work. And Spann has been taken down by multiple guys, multiple spots. I think it is a really good spot where he could just keep getting these takedowns until Spann starts getting tired, and that's where he could really start to find success. I think that's really important there. Also the fact that the style of which Spann fights. Now, he's the kind of guy that is, he can be explosive when he wants to be. He definitely has that. There's no doubt about that. But he's very kind of slow plodding movement. He's the kind of guy that likes to dig in. He's the kind of guy that really kind of keeps his stance, digs in, throws the shots, and he's there kind of to be taken down. He doesn't really have much footwork. Where on the other side, you've got Krylov who has solid footwork. He works his angles, has good, his striking has definitely come along. I thought it's come a long way compared to some of his other fights way in the past. I think he's gotten more comfortable with it. He's fine anywhere the fight goes, so he can put that pressure. He can really push the pressure because he's fine being on the ground, and he's looking for that as well too, and he's really putting it together with the striking. And then you got Spann, who, Spann has an iffy chin also. So it's a guy that, you look at him, a guy that, has some iffy cardio, has an iffy chin. I think some of these things really play well for Krylov in this fight. I think absolutely it does when you're looking at this fight overall. And then also if you look at the competition level. I mean, lastly, the competition level, I think, is pretty wide. Again, when you're looking at this, you look at it, Krylov has fought people like Glover Teixeira, Jan Blachowicz, Magomed and Goliath. We just talked about Volkan Ozdemir, a title challenger. And Spann, really his noteworthy guys is Anthony Smith, a shell of himself, Dominic Reyes, Misha Serkinov. I mean, these are kind of spots where, yes, he has looked good. Again, he has knocked out some guys. He's a big, heavy-handed guy. But I think Krylov is the guy that has really elevated, has really put it together. I think he has a great ability to kind of dictate this pace after that first round. I think he'll play it kind of safe. But this is also a spot where I don't see this going the full fight. I really think this is a spot where Krylov can push the pace. I think he can keep going, and I think he can break him in the middle of this fight is where the cardio of Spann starts to really dip down, and I think that's where he can find an opportunity to get the knockout, melt him, or look for a submission too. I think really the pressure and weaponizing his cardio is really going to be a spot for him in here. So if you look here, you got Krylov, he's minus 170. You've got inside the distance, minus 130. I think is a great spot here. I don't think this goes the distance. I don't think Spann, is going to have the opportunity to go out there and last if this is the way that I believe this fight will go, with pressure and smothering and takedown. So I like Nikita Krylov to go out there and get this victory inside the distance. That's minus 130. And the other fight we're going to talk about here is Andre Muniz versus Brendan Allen. You've got Muniz, he is minus 230. On the comeback here, Allen is plus 185. Now, here's a spot here where you've got two guys that are grapplers. And a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times when grappler versus grappler, it turns into a glorified kickboxing match. So we'll see how that goes, if that's kind of how things happen. But listen, you've got Muniz, who has looked fantastic, big for the division, strong guy, going out there submitting Jacare. You break his arm, you get my respect. Also, Eric Anders, Fabinski, he has subbed some guys and looked good doing it. And the other side here, you've got Allen, 3-fight winning streak, has looked good, coming off submitting Krzysztof Jotko. I thought that was a nice showing for him as well, too. But the one thing here that as I'm kind of touching on here is, grappler versus grappler, those kind of situations, they can pan out on the feet. I don't believe that's going to happen. I don't believe this is going to be a full-on kickboxing match. But if that is a path, if that is what happens, if, Muniz can't get him down, or whether Allen's looking to kind of get him down, or they're kind of looking to play it safe early a little bit, which I don't believe that's going to happen again. But if it is, and they does stay on the feet, Allen is way better on the feet than Muniz. I mean, really, really Allen was a, full-on kind of looking to grapple, and he has really put it together, elevated his striking, crisp combinations. I thought his, smooth striking. Also like the fact that his footwork has looked better. I think a lot of that does help him in this spot. And if it stays standing, he can fire, he can, he's not a guy that's going to knock you out. But I think that if it does stay standing, he can win some rounds and chip away and slow down Muniz if that's the case it goes. But on the other side here, Muniz is really looking to utilize his striking to cut distance. He's not looking to really hurt you. He's not looking to really finish you. He's looking to kind of cut distance, get his hands on you. He is really good at dictating body movement. Once he latches on, once he gets a body lock, he'll slam you down, able to kind of keep that top pressure. Plus, he is absolutely lethal when he's on the ground. The guy will right away submission hunt, and he is very methodical. Once he gets that top position, it is a bad spot. But again, if it does stay standing, Muniz has 4 losses. All 4 were by knockout. Not saying that Allen's going to knock him out, but that is an interesting fact there when you look at it, because he's also a guy that does not get submitted either. But if you look at on the grappling side of things here now, Muniz, he's a savage, like we're saying. He's a savage, big, tall guy, great jiu-jitsu, top-level stuff. And what kind of plays into Muniz having success is the fact that Allen is fine playing in guard. He kind of has that Paul Craig kind of thing where he'll be fine being down there. If somebody takes him down, he will play in it. He feels he's better in it. He's kind of a very, very confident guy when it comes to that. So he will be on the ground and he'll be fine doing that. Now, Muniz, who is, again, both these guys are high-level jiu-jitsu guys, but you don't want Muniz on top of you. I mean, if he ends up getting on top of you, I think it's going to be very tough for Allen to kind of create space, get out of danger there. I think he can keep pushing the pace, keep looking to kind of stay on top of him, keep him there. But you also look at it, Brendan Allen has been in, grappling matches recently. He's really trying to continue to kind of stay sharp with that, and he has done well in certain spots. I think that he's the kind of guy that, again, can get creative, can be good off his back. He can do things that are good off his back, and again, you don't want Muniz on top of you. But also, Allen is a guy who doesn't get finished really either when it comes to the submission game. Last time he was submitted was back in 2016. That was his 3rd professional fight that he was submitted in. He has not been submitted since then. So if that's really Muniz's path, it's going to be tough to finish him. Now, it could go to the scorecards. He could just kind of stay on top of him and that kind of thing. But the way I kind of look at it is, this is a dog or pass spot for me. I really believe it's a dog or pass spot. I just think this line is way too wide. You got Muniz minus 230. That is very high for me. You've got Allen, who is a battle-tested guy, really continues to elevate. I think he's more well-rounded, yet Muniz is a guy that does have that ability when he gets you on the ground. He can look for those submissions. But again, plays on the feet, I think Allen has an opportunity to kind of win some rounds and land some nice shots and have the better striking, better footwork, and land chip away, leg kicks, and kind of outlast him there, because again, if he starts to drag him out, I think Muniz will start to get tired, and that starts to help Brandon Allen in this fight. And I think that, again, if the fight plays on the feet, that's where it'll be. If the cardio does not last for Muniz, I think that helps Allen as well too here. So this is a spot where I think Allen wins this fight down the stretch. I don't think there's a finish in this fight. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be maybe like a 1-1 kind of going into that 3rd. And if that's the case, I think Allen has a great opportunity to get that victory, having the better cardio, really pushing that pace. So when you're looking at a plus 185 number, I just think it's too wide. I don't want to touch Muniz at this number here. I don't think it's a good number at all, to be honest with you. I think if he goes out there and if he does submit Allen, credit to him, it'll really kind of get his stock rising even further. But I think this is a dog or pass spot. I like Brandon Allen. I think plus 185 is a good number. You could even look at Brandon Allen possibly via decision. I think you get a little bit more on that. But overall, I think Allen can get the job done. So as my play here, dog or pass spot, Brandon Allen plus 185. So there you have it for my plays for UFC Fight Night this Saturday night. If you want to become a client, link down in the description, and excited about next week. I am chomping at the bit, so we'll see you next week. We'll see how we do, and this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.